Hello and welcome again to GOSpod, the podcast from the Global Order of Satan UK. Now, this time we're doing a slightly less frivolous topic than horror films. We're talking about the Online Safety Act in the UK. And with me this time I have Ligeia.
Hail Satan.
I have Pike.
Hail Satan, friends.
Who you might be familiar with from the Devil's Library podcast, and new to our podcast. Welcome. Also, I have Kay, who you will have heard previously on a podcast about keeping yourself safe online. Welcome, Kay.
Thank you, and hail Satan.
And I'm Lithos. Hail Satan. And just a brief outline, the Online Safety Act did not actually, you might, if you know anything about it, you might have heard things in the press, you'll have heard a lot of misinformation, a lot of people saying, oh, this is a Labour thing, Keir Starmer. I'm no great fan of Keir Starmer, but this is not a Labour bill. It was introduced by the Conservative government. It had its royal assent on the 26th of October 2023. The only reason we're hearing about it now is that two stages of it actually came into effect. Ofcom, our communications regulatory body, was put in charge of making sure that the various online companies stick to the Act. And what they had was a set of deadlines for different parts of the Act to come into effect. And the part that you will probably have heard about is the stopping children accessing pornographic content. The deadline for companies adhering to that was the 25th of July this year. This is why it's come out. It is not because the law has suddenly been created and come into effect. These laws take a long time to come into effect. It's basically that was the deadline the companies had, and as a lot of online companies, they bloody waited until the last minute and have put a variety of measures in place that we shall discuss. And we shall also discuss the ineffectual nature of the legislation and the methods for verification. I'll hand over to you now, Kay, if you want to add anything to that in terms of, I know you've been looking into this as well.
I have. Quick disclaimer, I am not a lawyer, so there are parts of the legal side that I might not get 100% correct, or maybe I'll simplify. That's because I'm not a lawyer. I am, however, a technologist. So the technology side is something that I can clarify a whole lot on. So if anybody knows about the legal side of this and I say something that's incorrect, please step in and be like, hey, that's really dumb what you just said, and allow me to make it right. So I suppose I would like to start by talking about the aims of the bill, and something I don't usually do, which I probably should do a little bit more, is acknowledging where the bill comes from. I do firmly believe that to a certain extent, most of the people who voted on this bill or who worked on it are people who legitimately want to protect children and other vulnerable people online. So I'm going to give them the credit of saying, good on you for having your heart in the right place, ? We'll get to the question mark later, because I think many of the people who voted on it also probably see LGBT themes as being not age appropriate. But
Indeed. I mean, we should clarify at this point exactly what you said there. We, as Satanists, we absolutely stand firm that, yes, children, vulnerable people should be protected from seeing a lot of the shit that's online. We are not at any point trying to intend to argue that this is how to get around it. It is literally about, we could have done a better job at this.
Yeah. But as, you know, now that I've said the nice thing, I can say all the not nice things, which is it's clear from looking at the bill that people who pass this either have their own technology that they wish to sell, and we'll get to that in a second, and getting a requirement into law like this is a great way to sell your product, specifically looking at some of Microsoft's scanning. And the other thing is that the people who actually thought about how to enforce the bill have no idea how the internet actually works. Because as far as enforcing this law is concerned, I am relatively certain that it is impossible without building your own great firewall akin to that of China. A portion of the bill states that, well, let me take a step back. I apologize. What does this bill mandate? This bill mandates so many things. It is a very big bill. It mandates age verification, and that's the thing that everybody, I'm sure, has already had to deal with, right? But it also mandates things on the side of the platforms. What do I mean by that? So big websites like Reddit, like Facebook, messengers like Telegram, Signal, or WhatsApp, all internet services that can be used by minors or can provide predators access to minors, regardless of whether or not they are based in the United Kingdom, as long as it has some impact on UK society, are affected by this act. And they have to do certain things in order to ensure that illegal content does not thrive on their platform. There's a whole bunch of illegal content there that we're talking about. Self-harm, anything that encourages self-harm is a portion of the illegal content that they're talking about, which means things like text needs to be analyzed. We will talk about that in a bit. Obviously, child sexual abuse materials is illegal activity and illegal content online, and therefore falls under this bill. As well as other things that I'm not remembering at this moment because my head is empty. But that's okay.
I think there are other things, including, for example, that people should be allowed to. So it's not just you're not allowed to do this. It's also you have to protect people's right to state their opinions. You know, you can't impinge on people's right to express themselves unduly. There's all kinds of like details in there. So it's also ensuring there's a certain amount of freedom of speech, as well as ensuring that people are protected. It's a massive bill. I will put a link to the Online Safety Act website at gov.uk. There's quite a good précis of information there, and you can dig out as much as you like.
Yes, I think the wording was they had to preserve democratically. Was it democratically important content or something along those lines?
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, from a technological standpoint, I have grave concerns about what the implications of what they want to achieve are technologically, because it seems like a whole bunch of impossible things. Like literally impossible. In fact, the fact that this was passed in 2023 and there was already conversations about client-side scanning, which at the time, and including today, is technologically infeasible, means that, and at the time, the government was warned that it was technologically infeasible, but it passed anyway, means that to a certain degree, what is technologically possible and what is fact doesn't actually matter, because you know there are laws to be passed. So I have some things I want to talk about, but I also don't want to monopolize the airspace. So how is that gonna work?
Well, we have. I mean, there are various points here. I think one of the main points for discussion is, as with just about every piece of legislation concerning information technology or the internet, our fucking clueless representatives in the House of Commons and the doddery old shitheads in the House of Lords, bishops, lords, ladies, whatever, people who've been given a peerage because they've donated to political parties, have not got a clue, as you said, about the practical implications and why they haven't actually properly consulted experts, not companies, not Microsoft, not because like you said, they want to sell you their shit. You know, it's just infuriating that time and again we get these laws and you go, for fuck's sake, every fucking 15-year-old who wants to find porn, self-harm material on the internet, they know how to use VPNs. They spend half their time in schools on computers trying to find online VPNs. I know, I was a technician in a school. The idea that this is going to, your website hasn't put in an age verification. Well, that doesn't matter. You go on a VPN, you pretend you're coming from, Germany, the Netherlands, the US, wherever. There's no age verification. And like you said, yeah, you'd need something like the Great Firewall of China to prevent it. There have got to be better methods, and one of the methods should be education. But again, and this is a thing I found out in schools, the people who draw up curricula have no fucking idea about IT, are not proper IT professionals. So you get the education part is severely lacking. The misinformation's there. The legislators don't have a fucking clue. What is the point of wasting money on this? That's my take anyway. Please, someone else join in, because this is going to turn into a rant if you let me talk any further. It already has.
It's a good rant. I think there's already some early research coming out that said that the restrictions do not work to protect children. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. So one of the points that I did want to hit on is exactly that, consulting experts. Part of the reason why, I guess this is a call to action, just to be aware of what I'm going to do before I do it. Part of the reason why these bills pass is because the government thinks that they are consulting experts. When they talk to Microsoft and when they talk to police, Microsoft says we're experts on technology, and yes, this is possible as long as you hire us to do it. And the police say we 100% need this technology in order to combat, all of these terrible things, the 4 internet apocalypse horsemen. For those of you who are unaware, the 4 internet apocalypse horsemen are the 4 dangerous bad guys that tech laws almost always cite in order to push through a parliament or something like that. And they are typically child predators. They are typically tax evaders, drug dealers, and money launderers. And terrorists. Those are the 4. Terrorists, money launderers / tax evaders, child predators, drug dealers. So, typically when these bills are pushed through, the police are always consulted. And technologists for the police are always going to say that this is feasible, regardless of what it does to the rest of society, because it makes police investigation easy. Now, they would say it makes police investigation possible, but we all know that it's possible anyway because, child predators are constantly going to jail, right? There's constant takedowns of child sex abuse material. This happens, right? But what these bills do is they make being a policeman easier. They make it easier to catch these people, which on first inspection is really, really, really good if you look at it just from that pro side. But the con side is that there are a whole bunch of hidden costs that go along with that. So my call to action is, for any technologists who might be listening, the next time a law like this is considered, please get involved and try to talk to the political parties, even the ones you don't like, right? Because, especially the ones you don't like, because they're the ones who are going to be pushing the hardest for this, and they're the ones that need the most pushback. Now, with that being stated, one of the hidden costs of this, so I mentioned earlier client-side scanning. There's also upload scanning. So whenever a picture is uploaded to a large platform, it needs to be scanned to see if it is child sex abuse material. And the way I looked today at the IWF, the Internet Watch Foundation, earlier today, and they are an organization that collects hashes of child sex abuse materials. And for those of you who don't know what a hash is, don't worry. It's basically like a digital fingerprint of a file. And just like real fingerprints, these organizations want you to think that this means one file, one hash. And in most cases, that is true. Until you start looking into the technology that the Internet Watch Foundation is talking about using, they're talking about using something called photo DNA. This is not your typical hash. This is not 100% accurate. This is not one fingerprint, one file. This is probabilistic. Now, probabilistic with a high accuracy, and in quotation marks, of 88%, which sounds great, but I would like to impress...
But it's pretty shit, really.
Yes, it is really bad.
That doesn't mean 12% a miss rate, and that's a lot.
Yes.
When you consider the amount of files out there.
That's what I wanted to impress. Let's consider the fact, and this is a fact, that WhatsApp passes 1 billion with a B messages per day. Per day. What is 12%, that miss rate, that incorrect classification? 12% of that is 120 million, if my math is not as bad as I think it is. And some of those 120 million are going to be false negatives. What does that mean? That means it is child sex abuse material that is not being caught. And that's bad.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Possibly a very daft question. How can they scan messages exchanged on WhatsApp if they're supposed to be encrypted?
We're going to get to that.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Now, the other amount of those are called false positives. These are messages that are not child sex abuse material, but they are flagged as such. Because technology is imperfect, especially when you're doing things probabilistically. And if we consider that it is a 50-50% split, of that 120 million, 50% is false positives and 50% is false negatives, that's still 60 million per day of potentially false reports. No police agency is capable of keeping up with that. Now, that's for a worldwide all messages for WhatsApp. But if we consider just the UK, it's potentially smaller, but also the fraction of police power is smaller than the world's fraction of police power. So the question that you had is a great one. How can they scan if WhatsApp is encrypted? Well, the bill gives the government the power, specifically Ofcom, the power to state that certain measures must be upheld by any platform that is deemed of a certain risk. So they could straight up say to WhatsApp, you are not allowed to have end-to-end encryption anymore. That could be something that the government states. What's more likely is that the government will mandate some form of quote-unquote client-side scanning. That means every single time you send a message on WhatsApp, your phone will scan that message, use their probabilistic method of determining whether or not this is child sex abuse material or encouraging self-harm or one of the very many things on the list. And if there is a false positive, your life may be upended. But what's more likely to happen with a false positive is that the police get yet another false positive and they get buried with all of the other true positives because they're getting too many reports to be able to handle.
Yeah, absolutely. And also there's the thing, the client-side scanning implies that something akin to malware or a virus is on your phone so that technology needs to be there, and that needs to be legal, essentially spy technology on your phone. So as Kay said, WhatsApp end-to-end safe. Once it hits your phone, there's something on your phone that's looking at all the shit on your phone and feeding it back to the police. All of this is very worrying,
I guess that's...
Yep, sorry, carry
That
on.
would be the next step, right? How do you know what it is scanning for? That it's only scanning for what it's supposed to be scanning for, and
Yes.
I
You
looked into
won't.
that today. And the answer to that is that the IWF, which holds the database to child sex abuse material hashes, super duper promises that it is seen by 2 people in their staff.
That's very reassuring.
Yeah, and on the site they actually say big tech companies trust us. That is a direct quote from their site.
And we trust the big tech companies.
And this is a problem again. Yeah, big tech companies, and they are not acting in the public interest. They actually, Zuckerberg, I'm pretty sure, doesn't give. Well, we know he doesn't give 2 fucks what's on his platforms because there's lots of horrendous material on there. I'm probably slandering him, but I doubt he bloody listens to this. But the thing is, they will have talked to people like that, people who are enacting the laws, and when you talk to someone whose only interest is how much money can I make out of this, there is no public interest. There is absolutely zero public interest. And even the verification methods, the most basic thing they could have done right here is to actually look at implementing a standard verification method, be it through a company they pay to do, or be it one that's created in-house by the government itself, that is standard across the UK. But no, every platform is using different methods. Blue Sky's using a particularly shonky method, which is, I can't remember what it's called. Don't know if you can remember the name, Kay. It's tied into gaming companies, basically, to make sure that your kids only get safe gaming material, and and then you're handing over all kinds of details not to Blue Sky, not to the UK government, but to some company that you know nothing about. And this is all, this should all have been thought about. All these little details need to have been thought about.
So
How does it work on Blue Sky then? I do not know, because although I'm on Blue Sky, I use a Blue Sky client, and Blue Sky clients, third-party clients, have not enacted the verification. You need to go via the Blue Sky website to age verify. So at the moment, the client I'm using doesn't. And if the client does, I'm going to use a VPN because I'm an adult, and they can all fuck off. I know I'm an adult. I'm entitled to see all this material, and anyone who wants proof that I'm an adult, you can fuck off. I'll go elsewhere to get to your material. And if you don't let me, then I won't look at your material. So, it is, as an adult, I'll reserve the right to bypass these methods because I am an adult. This does not apply to me because I am of an age to see all these materials. So, but like I say, I don't know how it works, but you basically, you need to register with this other, from what I've read, you need to register with this other company and provide them certain information. And I don't think it's as simple as a credit card. I know that years ago, YouTube, I remember doing this on YouTube. YouTube implemented a thing where it restricted an awful lot of material, which, I listened to, and this was just material which was kind of, it might have swears in it or whatever. It had been posted up on YouTube as, this is not for younger for younger listeners. And what they did was, Google said, right, we need to verify you're an adult. Please provide your credit card details. We will not store them. We will not charge you anything. This is just to check that you're old enough to own a credit card and it's legit. And I had to go through that process. And so some companies have been doing it for a while. via their own methods, but no method is inherently a guarantee that the person doing that is, I could have been a kid going on YouTube with me dad's credit card. I could have just taken the credit card out of the wallet and gone, I'm just going to put this in, like I say, because the government did not think about, well, are we going to have a standard age verification method? It's already, right, you've fallen at the first hurdle. And then you get onto things like, well, even with that, you can bypass it. You can use a VPN. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. I hope we're not flooding you with too much tech information here. You're looking kind of a bit sort of
Bring
puzzled,
on the flood.
Ligeia. Are you okay?
Ligeia is having a really bad headache.
I'm sorry.
And also, I am here tonight to mostly listen because I'm not a tech-savvy person. And to be completely honest with you, so far I have not heard of any of the stuff you were saying. I don't follow these, even though maybe I should. It is a little bit worrying, and as usual, I don't know where to put these things in my head, how to deal with them. So I'm happy to listen to you guys. This is helping me to maybe create like little drawers in my head and probably take some steps towards what my goal would be with this and for my kids, for myself. So excuse me, I'm a little bit quiet, but really I'm listening.
No, it's good. I just want to check
my
that,
face, what is doing my face is doing what my head is feeling, but I'm here.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, if I have a question, don't worry.
Absolutely.
Well,
How about you,
learning a lot.
Pike?
I guess
Anything?
there's a part where it's nerding out, and then there's a part where it's the fixes. So that's going to be relevant to a lot of people for whom maybe the nerding out part might fly over the head. The fixes is what's the key part, right? How do we stay safe and get around the age verification? How do we not just hand over all our data just like that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, please, if it does get too technical or too nerdy, please cut in and go, okay, enough of that. We just want to provide information. The basic thing, and this, and again, I'll stress this as Satanists, we are not trying to provide information for minors to get access to inappropriate content. This is intended for an adult audience, right? We, as an organization, we ensure that we have a strict code that members have to be adults of an adult, legally adult age. When we post this on YouTube, we do tick the bits that say, no, this is not for a younger audience. So what I would say is, as an adult, find a decent, reliable VPN. That is your first step to get around age verification. And you can get any manner of VPNs. What I would generally say is, don't get a free one, because there is no such thing as a free lunch. You don't know what they're doing with your information, how reliable it is, whether they themselves will collaborate with other governments to try and intercept your data. There are paid for ones. Go for a paid for one that has a policy of not storing your data. So they will say, the one I use, for example, is private internet access. It's a pretty good one. It's not one of the most expensive ones. Don't trust all the ads you might hear on social media about, oh, this VPN is great and you'll be able to do yada yada yada. This is strictly, it's a way of getting around the age verification process. So a no logging VPN, they will say we do not log. and a paid for one, and just look up. And if you're not sure, ask the question.
Some of them
That
also,
would be my advice.
some of them allow you to pay in cash as well, just by posting them the money, in which case you have no connection. They have nothing from you at all.
No, I mean the one I use, and I know this, it has actually, their no logging policy has actually been tested by the FBI, who were specifically looking for I can't remember what the crime involved was, and it wasn't just one case. And what all they managed to tell them was, yes, this person you are looking for has this IP address, i.e., where the person's coming from, has used our VPN at these times. We don't know what for. We have no other information. All we can tell you is they've used it. So that there is no evidence of anything that has been done. So, it is, and I'm not trying to say this in terms of, yes, get one and do illegal shit. This is just saying, get a VPN. It's a good idea to have one. Even, if you're out and about, you get one, make sure it works on your phone, across all devices and across all platforms, across Linux, across, and basically it's a useful thing to have. For example, on your phone, if you're on a free unsecured network at a hotel, you can just flick your VPN on and that's it. It's yes.
Just for our less tech savvy viewers, a VPN is a program that allows you to make it seem as though your connection to a website is coming from a different place. So all of us have an address on the internet that is unique to our household. It's not unique necessarily to your computer, but it's unique to your household typically. And whenever you go to a website on the internet, a lot like when you send a letter, for anybody who actually still does that nowadays, you write your address on the envelope. Well, whenever you contact a service on the internet, you include your IP address, that is the address of your computer, so that this way the computer on the other side can respond to you. The service can respond to you. A VPN makes it seem like you're coming from a different address, right? So instead of appearing like you're coming from London, it could seem like you're coming from I don't know, Edinburgh. And or even better yet, outside of the UK, you might seem like you're coming from Lisbon or Hong Kong or something along those lines. That's all.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that was clarified.
Absolutely, thank you, because I was going on the chucking out terms like IP address and blah blah blah. Absolutely right. And another thing where the private bit of the virtual private network comes in is it spoofs, it fakes your address, so you look like you're coming from somewhere else. It also encrypts your data that you're sending as an additional thing, which makes it the private part. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a virtual private network. So that the idea is that between your fake address and whatever you're talking to, there is it is like you're on your own little network, because everything that goes there and back is encrypted. So yeah, it is. I've been using one for years and years and years, and it's always a useful tool to have. And but beware of some of the ads that will say, "Oh, you can watch US Netflix in the UK, or Disney Plus." A lot of these companies do have a list of the fake addresses used by VPNs and will block them. So your mileage may vary on that front, but that it's misleading advertising. So don't believe anything you use. It's and also it's not going to protect you from viruses or anything like that. There's all kinds of bullshit out there about that. It is literally a way of hiding where you're coming from, pretending to come from another country, and encrypting your data, and that is literally all it does. Does that make sense? Yes.
Yes. Can we have a quick explanation on how, when VPN sort of doesn't work because they identify you because of browser fingerprinting?
Would you like to do that, or should I?
I'll leave you to do that, Kay, because I've talked quite a lot.
I feel like I've spoken a lot, but that's okay. I am literally a computer science professor. I do this for a living. So, yes, VPNs are not the end all and be all of protection. In the privacy world, we have something called privacy by policy versus privacy by design. VPNs are a tool that fall under the category of privacy by policy. That is, the company that provides it super duper promises that their technology is private and they are not keeping logs. Something which we must trust the company, or we may choose not to trust the company, but it is just a promise at the end of the day. So that is one situation where VPNs may not be sufficient. If there is a need for, I don't know, there are some situations in which this applies, but if there is a need for there to be no trust involved, VPNs are not the right choice. And then we have the other thing that you mentioned, which is browser fingerprinting. So let's start with what is a browser. Because the first time I did any tech training outside of university, it was for a bunch of people in like an elderly home. And I was talking and I was mentioning things like, oh, you install this add-on in your browser. And about 40 minutes through, some brave older woman raised her hand and said, what is a browser? So that's the audience I'm going to speak to right now. A browser is a program in your computer that allows you to access the internet. Something like, or more specifically, to access something called the World Wide Web, which is all of those web pages like YouTube, etc., that sit on the internet. This is something like Google Chrome, or Mozilla Firefox, or Brave, or Opera, or Microsoft Edge, and if you're using that, please don't. And
it is literally just Chrome rebranded.
It is.
Microsoft Edge with a load of extra shit that Microsoft have chucked in there to try and sell you their Copilot bloody AI crap. Sorry.
That makes it slower. Just don't use Edge. So, a browser, each of your browsers look different from each other. Obviously, a Firefox is going to look different from a Chrome, right? Because they're programmed differently. They have different features, etc. But even between my Chrome and someone else's Chrome, let's say Ligeia's Chrome, right? There are still differences because I don't live, big spoiler for people who don't know, who are listening to this, I don't live in the UK. I'm shocked. I know you could tell you had no way of determining from my accent that I wasn't from the UK. But I actually live somewhere in mainland Europe, specifically in Portugal, and the language packs that I have installed in my browser are going to be different from the ones that Ligeia has installed, because I need to support Portuguese, and Ligeia presumably doesn't. So there are these micro differences in our browsers that, with enough of them, create a unique fingerprint, or unique enough. Maybe they can identify your browser as being the same as 10,000 other people. But in the tech world, 10,000, not a lot. And so as you go about the internet, they can measure this fingerprint from your browser and identify you, or you and 9,999 other people. In order to avoid this, you would need to use a technology that specifically defends against browser fingerprinting. Now, there are some browsers like Molvad is a browser that attempts to defend against this by making you look like every other Molvad user. There's also another technology which is almost like a browser plus a super, super strong VPN installed all in one. That's called Tor. Tor. This is actually stronger than a VPN because I said VPNs are privacy by policy. Tor is privacy by design. But the only way to defeat browser fingerprinting is to make your browser look like as many other people's browsers as possible. That's the only way to get around it. So you would have to use one of these technologies and blend in with the other nerds who are using this technology.
So other than keeping your bookmarks elsewhere, what can you do? And you mentioned language, right? Is there anything else you would do to achieve?
Oh no, how do I stop this from getting very technical very fast? I'm going to introduce another term. And this term is called threat model. Basically, the threat model is what you're worried about on the internet. Who are you worried about tracking you, right? If you're worried about Amazon tracking you, you have a very hard time because Amazon controls a large percentage of the internet given their cloud storage. But if you're concerned about the local bakery tracking you, maybe you have a little bit of an easier time, right? So it depends on who you are trying to defend against. For something like there are things you can do. For something like the government, this is a very difficult task, but that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. What you can do is you can install add-ons that block things like trackers, because trackers are what are used to typically track you across the internet using browser fingerprinting.
There is a good one that is available on all browsers called uBlock Origin. That is the letter U, block Origin. I have it on all browsers. It's very good. As a bonus, it also gets rid of all the annoying ads in places like YouTube or Channel 4. It's remarkable. It's very good. It's free. I would recommend it. Sorry to interrupt there, but I trust you agree with that one, Kay.
Yes, uBlock Origin is one of the ones that I would go to. In fact, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which is a foundation in the United States that deals with electronic freedoms, has a whole bunch of documentation on good add-ons and things like that to use in order to protect your privacy. So maybe instead of me regurgitating other people's advice and then taking credit for it, which I shouldn't do and will not refuse to do, I will refuse to do. In other words, I will not do it. I will instead refer you to the EFF and all of the people who have done the hard work of compiling these lists. Maybe we can put that in the link, that link in the description.
Absolutely, I will. I will also put a link, and I would recommend anyone who's listening to this to go back to an earlier episode if you haven't heard it. I'll put a link to that as well, which is specifically the one that you were on, Kay, with GIS. So we had two actual experts who are not just kind of like experts working in a company. They work in academia. And talking about how to keep yourself safe online. So there's some very good advice in there. I have installed a couple of things since then, and I will put that link in there. And I'm trying to keep this session to an hour because there's a lot of data. What I would also say is, fire out any questions. What I think what we should do, if you're all agreed on that, is actually sort of wrap this one up, sort of at around the hour mark, and then maybe do an episode 2 where we look at questions that people have had, questions that you've had when you've had time to mull over this, look into the information, because we don't want to do information overload here, and we don't want to worry people unduly. Browser fingerprinting sounds like a much worse thing than it is, and I suspect it's largely being used to direct advertising to you at the moment. And again, with something like uBlock Origin, you will eliminate that. It's every browser will be unique, but there are browsers that have. I would recommend Firefox as a browser. It has more security features built in. It does use a completely different code set in the background than a lot of the other browsers that are based on Google Chrome. And there are more protections built in. So it is essentially, it's a mixture of what desktop system do you use? Do you use a VPN? What browser do you use? What add-ons do you use? Each one of those adds a layer of security, and it's like adding an extra lock to your front door kind of thing. You will never be 100% safe, but what you can do is make yourself safer and more difficult to investigate than other people, because a lot of these, even if you're talking about businesses, they don't kind of want to spend too much time if they can get, information easily from somewhere else, or money. Likewise, law enforcement agencies will look at easy methods to find people who are stupid enough to not keep themselves safe. So, if that makes sense.
Even I understood. So we're good.
I did my best to speak to audiences that are not tech savvy, because I don't want to be the technobabble guy.
No, and you are very good at that. I'm really glad you're on here, because you did that in the last podcast, and it's kind of like pulling people back, because I tend to go off on use technical terms, and then I get the blank looks, and it's like, oh, okay. Also, I don't know nearly as much about the subject as you do. I've kind of come from a working in IT background, not actually, picking up things as I go along, with sort of basic training involved. So I'm nowhere near what I would call an expert. I would say I know a fair bit, but there's an awful lot I don't know.
If you ever have any questions, and this applies to anybody here, if you ever have any questions, just let me know.
I wanted to say that, Kay, the way you speak about this, I don't know, it might be just my understanding, but I guess it's not just me. You make it sound much more approachable to me. That's why I didn't bother to even read or anything. I came here okay, I will learn from you, because I don't know, it's really, really working with me. I heard you last time. It's very easy for me to listen to you. I could be here for hours. I'm not trying to really, it's coming from my heart. So I will really be happy if we make more episodes, at least one more, because now, after 52 minutes, I've learned a lot. And if I was reading this, I would have been done after 2 sentences. No. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Can I actually, maybe one hopeful message at the end, for the very, very end of the podcast before we close it out, is that everything that's happening in the UK right now, that's currently being proposed in the European Union, this is not new. We are just many, many, many years before, or many, many, many years late as compared to China. And even in China, there are tons and tons of activists every single day who are able to access the areas of the internet that the government doesn't want them to. I can't say why I know this, and I can't get into details.
Okay.
But
yes.
What I can say is that there are many different methods of bypassing the Great Firewall, and there is no way to make a firewall that 100% works without tanking your own economy. And we just have to hope that the UK is not willing to tank its own economy based on pride or whatever.
It is exactly that. It's it is, and it comes back to the, regardless of what the EU's going to do, I doubt there'll be. I'm assuming there will be a bit more effective and look into it in more detail than the UK. We're generally quite shit at that here, especially when it comes to technology. But yes, I mean, firewalls can be circumvented, and also firewalling and cutting large portions of the internet off. Well, that's censorship, and then the government gets to decide what we see, and that is not a good thing. And I think it boils down to education. We are not teaching at the earliest possible age proper IT literacy, teaching kids how to identify what is crap on the internet, how to look at information sources, how to keep yourself safe. And it's kind of like we're thinking about this way too late, and we are, and I think we've just wasted an awful lot of money on this act, and it's going to do fuck all, in my honest opinion, to keep children safe. I don't think it's going to do the slightest thing to keep children safe, because the websites with dangerous material, they don't want to lose users. They don't want to take material down and piss people off. And if they do, those people will start their own sort of social media sites. I'm sorry if it sounds depressing after you did the positive note, but this is strictly about the act, and I think this is yet another piece of absolute horseshit legislation that is just laughable. And it's laughable how much time and money we've wasted on this shit. And just looking on the website, on the Online Safety Act 2023 stages, the royal assent, the assent through the House of Lords, the House of Lords debating the House of the amendments going backwards and forwards, and then you go, right, at the end of that, after more than a year, you've come out with another pile of horse shit. Well done, guys. Really well done. That money could have gone into the fucking NHS. It could have gone into the education system. Clueless bunch of fucking arseholes.
And it's currently serving on the international stage as like the pilot program of the law that the European Union is considering.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Here's another call of action that I have, and this is specifically to all the people in the UK. Don't let this work. Because if the international stage looks at the UK and sees how much of an absolute fuck up this was, then at least other people in other parts of the world will be able to maintain their freedoms.
Well, we are very good at sort of showing the world what a bad idea. We've done it with Brexit. The States has done it with Trump. We don't seem to be learning though. But hey ho.
Yeah.
Let's come on. We got to end on a positive note. We can't leave it hanging here for all our listeners.
Out of the entirety of the world, I'm only aware of one censor that actually successfully censored the internet, and that is, information even leaks somewhat into North Korea, not massively, but somewhat. So like if not every nation, or not any nation, is able to truly successfully censor the internet for large periods of time, there is no way that any bill passed in the UK or the EU or anything like that is going to successfully take away the rights as long as people are willing to fucking resist.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, and in the true spirit of Satanism, I would say resistance is part of the creed. We don't have to accept this, and I will stress this again. This does not mean we because people like Farage will sort of like, and other people will, then Starmer himself will say, oh, that's because you want kids to access dangerous content. No, we do not. We are just very bad at it. Right? We are very bad at preventing that kind of thing because we're going about it the wrong way. And I do not want any child to see an awful lot of the horrendous stuff out there. And it is our duty as adults to prevent that. However, it is not okay to leave it to the government of clueless fuckwits and hope that they'll come up with a solution.
On the very rare chance that there could be a legislator listening to this, please speak to actual tech experts. Thank you.
Yeah, and that is tech experts. You know, people like you, people like Giz, who work in academic and other circles, not ones whose only interest is making a profit.
It sounds like you're saying that tech lobbyists are not tech experts.
Well, they are, in the sense of technology to make money, basically. You know, they know about technology, but their interest is not protecting people. It is fleecing them for every last penny.
I will push back and disagree a little bit. I agree with the general direction of your message, except I would say that they are not actually tech experts. You said yes, but I'm going to say no. Because the people who end up in the lobbying seat are not the tech experts. They are the charismatic salespeople. They are the people who have connections to the government, etc. They promise, they then tell the CEO what was promised, and then the CEO, who also doesn't know anything about tech, then turns to the CTO and says, "This is what I promised," and the CTO goes, "What?" And then that's how it goes. Like
it is. I don't know if this term still exists. Vaporware, basically, which is what the salesperson promises you. It's not hardware, not software. It's vaporware, as in it doesn't exist. It's just, And yes, you're right. Absolutely, those people are not. That no one in the government will have talked to a technical expert. They'll have talked to people who are paid to lobby and try and sell product. Yes.
Most of us are not approachable. I'm not going to lie. Most tech experts are not approachable and do not explain things well, I think. So, it's difficult. It's difficult. But yes, please, if you're a legislator, get in touch before you pass something next time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anything, either Ligeia, or do you want to add something, Pike? No? Okay.
Me
we shall
neither.
draw this one.
I just really thank you.
Well, there's a lot to take in, okay?
Yes.
And I hope what we've done here is we've kind of like given you an overview and a taster. We'll all ruminate on this and come back and sort of do a part 2 where we look into things in more detail. If you are listening to this and there are things you're not sure about, things you want us to cover, things that you think we got wrong, then absolutely, if you're a politician who wants to say we're talking shite, you can fuck off. You're not interested. Talking shite is your job, not mine. So
come on board and let us make fun.
Yes, absolutely. Oh yes, can we please have Keir Starmer? And we will be back. And we will clarify. So if you do have questions, in the show notes there will be an email address to leave questions to, and you'll be able to leave comments on YouTube. But do email us with any of your questions, and then we'll look into that as well. But in the interim, thank you for listening, and it's a big Hail Satan from me. Kay?
Thank you, everybody, and hail Satan.
Ligeia?
Hail Satan.
And Pike.
Hail Satan, friends.
Our usual thanks to friends of the podcast, Matt and the guys from Hearst Pileup, for letting us use their music as our theme tune. Why not check them out on Bandcamp? And while you're at it, why not check out our compilation, the proceeds of which go to charity, and it's called Contra Odium, from the Satan Not Hatin' campaign. As usual, if you have any comments or you'd like to suggest topics for future episodes, please email us at GOSpod@ghostsatan.com. That's GOSPOD GOSATAN.com. And in the meantime, be well, hail Satan, and thank you for listening.
All right. So, for those of you who are unaware, the 4 internet apocalypse horsemen. Let me do that again, but for a clear take. Drug dealers, and I'm forgetting the 4th one. No. And money launderers. And terrorists. Sorry, terrorists. Those are the 4. Terrorists, money launderers / tax evaders, child predators, and oh god, I'm so bad, drug dealers.
And I'm fucking hell. I nearly said I'm the Raj. Right, I'll cut that bit. That's good. That's gonna be one of the bloopers. Okay, here we go. I fucking remember my name now.
Sorry, I'm looking up acronyms. I should have had this on a text file, open and ready to go.